Thank you for coming to the online instructor overview. This is for fall 2020, and just a little bit of background to get you started. One of the things with our online courses that might be different than other departments is we're part of the Gateway Initiative. And what that was addressing was the idea that there were concerns about online students completing courses, that they weren't necessarily performing as well as the hybrid or on-campus students, and there was a wide variance and inconsistency in the delivery of information in online courses, even within a department. So what we did was we created a standardized course using course mapping. So we looked at our outcomes, the kind of topics we cover, the content that we use, the assignments that we have, and the assessments that we use. And we said, okay, how are we going to make all of those something that we convert to an online virtual experience as much as we can from the on-campus experience? So how does that all come back to help these students meet these outcomes? Well, we created the standardized course to do that. But a lot of times instructors who maybe haven't taught with one of our courses before say, well, isn't that totally impersonal? And the reality is, no, it's not. The students really respond very positively to the standardization. They like the layout. They like the fact that every course, no matter what it is, there's a common treatment, whether it's a full semester, whether it's an accelerated class online, they're getting the same information regardless of a teacher in the department, an adjunct, etc. Also, we specifically designed the class in a particular manner so that they would gain online skills for future assignments and future classes. So it's really important that the students become familiar with those Falcon Online tools and features, and that you are able now to spend more time in that interaction with your students and less time on that course development and edits that you have to do in maybe a traditional class. So even though it's very tempting, note that warning, please don't alter the course settings or the content, no matter how tempting it is, because there's a lot of background tasks that are built in that you could corrupt by doing so. One of those things is release conditions. And why do we use those release conditions? Well, unlike what many people think, they are not unnecessary barriers or obstacles preventing students from being able to progress. One of the things is it allows us to really gauge that online attendance. Another is that it helps us really know that they're visiting the online content. So rather than just saying, oh yeah, they logged in, so what? They logged in. That doesn't necessarily mean that they visited any content or got engaged or involved with that content. It requires the fact that they learn how to navigate the shell. So they have to know how to get to content. They have to know how to use the links and videos and documents in that content. Then they need to use the quizzes and they need to get to the assignments. So they cannot get to their assignments unless they visit that content. So in a nutshell, if you don't visit the content, it's like skipping class, and I won't let you do the homework unless you come to class. So just kind of keep it in mind like that. We also require chapter quizzes. Now they have unlimited attempts to earn 100% on those quizzes. They're only 5 points, but it gives them not only a self-assessment of, hey, did I read the chapter? Do I understand the concepts of the chapter? But it also is a way for the instructor to force that issue. If you were in a face-to-face class, you would be talking with students and having discussions or activities based on the reading. You don't have that luxury in an online class, so the chapter quizzes serve that purpose. Another very important part of teaching an online class is substantive interaction. And what does that mean in an online class? What are the tools that you can use? Well, you can use your announcements, you use feedback, you can send individual emails. We have intelligent agents that we've built for you. There's a chat feature. You can have virtual classroom meetings that are synchronous. and virtual office hours. And again, here we are in fall 2020. We are all using virtual office hours. We will not be on campus for that. So it's extremely important that you have a weekly announcement that reminds students, hey, you have an upcoming assignment due this week. Did you meet those release conditions? We give you a sample in your shell so you can just build them out for the rest of the semester. It's really important that you spend time on that feedback. So don't just grade the rubric and say, read the rubric. Give them specific feedback based on their details from their particular assignments. If you see a student struggling, send them an email. Get that interaction going as much as you can. If you like to use the chat, you're welcome to do so. If that's not your thing, just make sure the students are aware that you don't use the chat. If you do a synchronous virtual classroom meeting, be very careful because this is an online class. You should not be forcing them to come at a specific day and time, and they shouldn't be penalized if they can't. So you need to think of different options for those kinds of things. Again, you want to offer your virtual office hours. We really want you to use the virtual classroom to do so, again, to teach the students how to use that tool. And you can use that to show your screen, show a PowerPoint if you like, whatever you might need to do to interact with that student. So there's a variety of tools where you can be very communicative and involved with your students. So we, again, want to make sure that you have as many Falcon Online skills as possible, because you can't help your students if you don't know how to use the features and functions. So D2L 101 and 102 is just not enough. The 45-hour training is good, but it might not be enough because it's not application in a real setting. So you need to really understand how to troubleshoot things, how to fix things, but you also need to understand it from the student side. If they can't see something, if they don't know how something works, can you troubleshoot for them? So again, we have release conditions. If the student didn't visit all of their content, or if they didn't get 100% on their quiz, that's not a functional technical issue with the class. Don't jump to that conclusion. You need to know how to check on the student, see if they did that, and if they didn't, guide them so that they can troubleshoot for themselves and fix that situation. So you want to use the checklist that we provide to you in the SLS Instructor resources site. So if you do want to go through your shell to just make sure you've updated things and looked at it, you want to make sure that you update your details, that you don't copy things from previous courses that maybe you taught, because we have changed and updated a variety of things in the shell. And you can also use that checklist to see that there might be options that maybe you never realized before. For example, we did build some intelligent agents for you this time around. You might not be familiar with them. You might want to add some of your own. We also added some calendar reminders. You might want to add some of your own. And so again, it's just something for you to walk through your shell to make sure it's as complete as possible. Another thing that you want to be aware of that maybe you've done differently in your other classes or just aren't aware of at all is that there are, for the different assignments, start dates, due dates, and end dates available in Falcon Online. However, we only use end dates. And the reason that we only use end dates is because the start date, the student can work at their own pace. So to have a start date doesn't make any sense, because we would have to have every assignment have a start date of the first day of class. So if the student is progressing and moving forward, there's no reason to have a start date. We don't use a due date because that doesn't actually close and lock the assignment. The due date basically is a suggestion. It will say, hey, this was due on Friday the 5th, but it doesn't close that folder or lock that discussion. We use end dates because we say this is when it's due. If you don't do it by that date, it's closed, it's locked. And the student would then need to communicate with you to request any kind of extensions if you're going to work with them, if they have extenuating circumstances. Now, discussions you can't open for just one person. You could create something as a discussion for one. What I've done in the past is I've had if they had a really extenuating circumstance, they can still see the discussion, they just can't post or reply. So I said, okay, email me what you would have done for the prompts, and then you would have to change a setting to allow them to see the other posts, and you could ask them to reply to other students. That may or may not be the right option. You could set a group up for just one person. Discussions are supposed to be interactive and engaging, so this should be a few and far between kind of situation. It really should be only if they have extenuating circumstances. If you need help with that, when you do have that kind of situation, just email me. I'll be glad to help you, Chrissy Leonard, and I'll be glad to assist you with any kind of guidance that you might need for that. You always want to check on their class progress to verify whether they've done what they were supposed to do to access it. They're going to say the class doesn't work or there's a technical problem. 9 times out of 10, they didn't click on something in content, or they got a 9 out of 10 on their chapter quiz and didn't get to the 100%. So you need to learn how to use the class progress tool for yourself and be able to explain it to your students so that they know how to use it as well. It's very important that you watch Course Guide Part 1 and Course Guide Part 2 in the course shell in week 1, because that is a demonstration for the students of how the class works and operates. It helps you as well. I want to thank you for teaching online. If you have any further questions, again, please just get in touch with me, Chrissy Leonard. You can email me and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, or if you want to set up a virtual appointment so that we can walk through anything, I'll be glad to do so. Have a great semester.